I'm fortunate to live in a place where I'm greeted each morning during 3 seasons by happy bird songs. There's this one bird. I think he's responsible for making the daily announcements to all of the birds in the neighborhood. I'm dead serious. Growing up in the Bronx, we had pigeons and these little brown birds that bounce. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. What are those birds? Are they babies? I don't think they're baby pigeons. Are they orphans? I never saw them with their parents. Obviously, I admit, I don't know much about birds, but since moving out to the Poconos, I've become a fan. There's this one bird, I call him the birdcaster. I first hear him in the morning, around 5 a.m. in the back of my house. He's calling out to the others. It's not a song, it sounds more like a message.
Good morning, everyone. Today's announcements. First, to all the youngsters, class will begin at 8 a.m. sharp. The weather today, partly sunny, but be prepared. Feels as though a front is moving in from the west.
All right, this is not a direct translation, but I'm telling you, Birdcaster is making announcements. Next thing you know, he's off, repeating the process on the east side of the house, flying around the neighborhood, spreading the daily word. That appears to be Birdcaster's role, delivering messages. My wife doesn't like Birdcaster. She's not a morning person. That's more my thing. I respect Birdcaster. He has a function and seems to take it pretty seriously. Based on my unscientific research, outside of rainy mornings, Birdcaster is out there doing his thing. It's spring, y'all, and I'm waiting on Birdcaster and the rest of his crew to return. Since we're in this art of adjustment season, I'll take a cue from nature and deliver a bit of a message. I know there are lots of our brothers and sisters out there who, because of disability, feel as though they're currently in a season of wait. But you're actually in a season of prepare. This downtime that you're feeling is perfect for rehab, retraining, for formal or informal education. Maybe it's trying something new, something that's always been of interest. As much as possible, consider focusing your energy on you and really dive in and use the season. Remember, a little movement in some direction is the beginning of momentum. I just made that shit up. I'm Thomas Reed, host and producer of Read My Mind Radio, baby. Let's get it. Read my mind. Read my mind. Radio. In this episode, we move forward with my continuous self-portrait, where I explore my adjustment experience based on aspects of conversations with my guests. While I didn't make it into the final episode, my conversation with Kiana Glanton, featured in the last episode, began with her love of carnival. I'm not talking about the traveling amusement parks with rickety roller coasters and stuffed animal prizes and funnel cake. I do like some funnel cake. I'm talking about Caribbean carnival. The origin of carnival dates back to Egypt. That's in Africa, y'all. It was then adopted by Greeks, Romans, and Europeans. But what we know of carnival today has its roots in the Caribbean islands, where former enslaved Africans celebrated their freedom and more. It takes place around the world in various forms. My only experience with carnival is the West Indian Labor Day Parade on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn.
Ladies, give me a sexy whiner.
My favorite carnival, hands down, is Barbados Crop Over, where it's the end of the summer season when literally the crops are over and the whole island celebrates with the parade and parties and festivals and competitions for soca and calypso. For me, that down home, very connected, very communal experience came from Barbados.
It just so happens when Kiana and I were discussing carnival, I recently confirmed that my paternal grandfather was Jamaican. I've always thought this was the case, but never confirmed it. My mother was from Puerto Rico, and I've always felt a certain attraction to the Caribbean. Like, I want to live there type attraction, at least part-time the way folks winter in Florida. No disrespect to my brothers and sisters in Florida, but y'all got to get rid of that governor and the incredible anti-blackness that goes on. I know it's everywhere, but whew.
The moment I stepped foot in Barbados, I felt like I was home. There was this very Africanness this very kindred kind of connection that happened the moment that I got there, that I felt like I had been there before, or that I was home. I was just like, yo, I could live here. I feel so welcomed. And I think it is the inherent African spirit, honestly, that like makes you feel at home.
My genealogy isn't the focus of these episodes. This is about the art of adjustment, which, like these self-episodes, is a continuous process.
I have not figured out how to participate as a visually impaired person comfortably yet, because there are safety issues. You have thousands of people drinking, you have trucks that are moving, and then you're on streets that are not like the streets in the U.S. These are Caribbean streets that have had hurricanes. The infrastructure is really different. So it's not the safest thing to cane, I would say, safely behind drunk people and behind the truck. So I have not figured out how to re-engage in Carnival just yet. I'm determined that I will return at some point.
It goes beyond just navigating. So much of the Carnival environment is visual, but it's also about community, food, and drink. My first thought is, why not experience the Carnival from within as part of a float? I'm often more interested in being a part of the production, creation over consumption. Unless we're in the kitchen, then consumption is my preference. I know there are some out there who hear my approach and may feel it's limiting. Thomas, come on, man. You can use your white cane and get around if you try. They're not wrong, but if you ever been in such a crowd of people all enthralled in what's going on around them, plus adding the rum and other libations, I don't know if that's a battle for me to take on. You can if that's your desire, but you better have some backup canes. My agenda is more about enjoying the soca and calypso music, sipping on my refreshing rum punch or some Wray and Nephew, and ultimately reveling in the festivities. But if you want to use that time to gain an O&M Grandmaster badge, I support your right to go for it. I also support disabled people using our voices to challenge society in different ways, rather than us conforming to what so-called able-bodied people deem as normal. Why not purposefully enter these spaces with the intention of making them accessible, comfortable environments for us too? I'm curious. There's a conversation in the community about whether or not people should be involved in the blindness field. There's this idea that, some people go in there because it's easy. Some people think that that's a cop-out. Oh, you shouldn't go into the blindness field. You should go out into the workplace and do other things that have nothing to do with your blindness. Have you heard that conversation?
Yes. My thought is this. You do not get to tell me how to live my life and how to be successful and how to be great at being a blind or a low vision person. How do you know that this is the most effective? How do you know that this makes the most sense?
So much of the philosophy around blindness is based on the idea of being independent. I truly believe in being independent. However, conforming to society for the sake of appearing independent and not in need of any, quote, special help, well, doesn't that kind of just let society go unchallenged? Think about it. The NFB, from my understanding, advocated against accessible pedestrian signals. This technology was considered an insult to blind people and our ability to safely cross streets. Similarly, folks felt the same about audio description and our ability to consume visual content. We don't need no special help. We don't need no stinking badges. Meanwhile, the only thing that's so-called special is the way we access the information that's already there being used or consumed by those who are not blind. You know, the normals. I'm getting some real internal ableism vibes from this. Plus, it feels selfish AF.
Just because you and I are on this side of being able to talk about it without breaking down or punching a wall or being in distress and deep depression doesn't mean that somebody else isn't coming straight off of that. I know what it felt like learning how to cross the street in tears, holding my baby's hand, and she was 3 and I was blindfolded, learning how to use this cane. I know what it felt like thinking, how am I going to braid her hair? What if she swallows a penny? How am I going to get help? How am I going to even know she's in distress? All this fear and worry.
Over the years of producing this podcast, that's been a struggle for me. Admitting the challenge of blindness while espousing our abilities, independence, and sending a positive message. Making people aware that blindness by itself is not limiting. Rather, it's the restrictions and limitations established by society. It's the barriers society puts in our way that requires overcoming. not our blindness.
Somebody sat with me and told me it was going to be okay and that it wasn't going to be easy, but it is possible. And once you start to organize your world and your mind and restructure how you think about what success is, then anything is possible. And having a functional, happy existence, one of independence and of purpose, is possible.
Let's be real. Hearing that from someone who has been through it is so much more powerful than getting that same message from a non-disabled person.
So to the people who encourage you to go out into the world, go for it if you want to. That's your thing. But I feel purposeful in this field.
As someone producing content specifically for and about disability, some have tried to encourage me to go beyond disability and seek out opportunities to create audio for and about mainstream topics. I could do that, but those who make these suggestions never asked me what I wanted. They assumed I was only doing this disability-related stuff as a means to something larger, something better, something not disabled. But I don't see non-disabled or bigger as better, especially when we think about impact. We have power, even in small numbers. I'm reminded of Kiana and her friends starting what they call the Rescue Experience. They understand that meaningful impact doesn't necessarily require grand gestures or large amounts of money.
Donating money to a woman who needs to buy coats for her children, or getting her hair done, or sending someone we know who's overworked and tired to a hotel for the night with dinner and a spa the next day. People who just needed a little bit of help, who was doing the work, but just could use a little bit of support.
Isn't that all of us at some point in our lives? I know some want you to believe that they did it all by themselves, holding tight to the idea that their own success was fully based on their individual work. The same folks who won't acknowledge that perhaps they had advantages that others do not. Access to well-funded schools, technology, and people. When we realize we all need a bit of support, maybe we'll be more inclined to extend that to others as well. Back to that idea of claiming our own space within existing environments. When I think of Kiana's desire to once again enjoy the Caribbean Carnival experience, I have to ask, why not create our own space? Yes, we advocate for our inclusion in various spaces and places, and that's fine. But right now I'm thinking more like the bum rush and less like asking. When I say the bum rush, I'm not referring to the original term where a crowd of people just rush the door to get into an otherwise restricted area. Well, maybe I am. Just not in a violent way. What happens when we, as disabled people, work together to assertively take over sections of these spaces and make them work for us? Obviously, you can't just go into an existing theater and start building ramps and tearing down walls. But we could, collectively, find a space along the route of a carnival and create an accessible environment for us. Sort of one that tip like, yeah, we here, what's up? Are there disabled brothers and sisters in the Caribbean who are already doing this? I'm not trying to be the Christopher Columbus and say I discovered something that's already there. If it doesn't exist, is this of interest to those living in the Caribbean? I'm pretty sure that others like Kiana would be interested in traveling to the islands and accessibly immersing themselves in the carnival experience. So let me ask you, who would be up for an accessible, audio-described carnival experience? I'm talking about a space within a space, designed and made for us. Picture it, a designated accessible area along the carnival route, packed with food and drink, refreshing rum punch, and water. You got to have your water. Bruh, you're a man of a certain age now. Don't forget a nearby bathroom. True. All with live audio description. Not the bathroom. Are there any Caribbean describers in the Read My Mind radio family? Seriously, who in the family would be down to experience Carnival with AD? Hit me up. readmymindradio@gmail.com. When I thought about this Art of Adjustment season specifically, giving more thought to aspects of the conversation I had with my guests, I didn't realize where it could go. There's something about it that feels natural. Taking the time to sit with the thoughts and ideas feels really important and necessary. In the episode featuring Kiana, she spoke about her praying for opportunity. She acknowledged that Now she finds herself really busy because her prayers are being answered. These self-portrait episodes for me are a way to slow down. I'm appreciating the time sitting with these conversations, letting them breathe a bit. It's an opportunity to spark or reignite ideas and explore them and see where they lead. Sharing these conversations makes me feel a little like my friend, Birdcaster.
What up, baby?
There are multiple messages for whoever wants them or needs them at a given time. If you, too, choose to share, well, that just extends the reach of one conversation originally between two people. Before I fly away, let me remind you to make sure you rock with Read My Mind Radio wherever you get podcasts. We have transcripts and more at readmymind.com. And no matter what the occasion or the season, winter, spring, summer, fall, or if you're like Babyface who only believes in 2 occasions, you can find me by spelling the name right. That's R to the E-I-D,
and that's me in a place to be.
like my last name. Peace.